And we'll go ahead and start recording. So welcome everyone, good morning, and welcome to Wonders of Weird Mysteries with Kelly Milner Halls. We have Kelly joining us with all of our Cool Trails patrons, and I want to take a minute to let everyone know that this project is supported by the Institute of Museum and Library Services under the provisions of the Library Services and Technology Act, as administered by the Missouri State Library, which is a division of the Secretary of State. And they have graciously provided funding for all of our summer reading activities this year. And we are so very grateful for that, that we're able to bring Kelly and all of your cool badges and fun stuff to you through that grant. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our author today. Kelly has lots of fun planned for us and lots of weird stuff. And she's going to be sharing her screen so we can all see what she's got in store. Take it away, Kelly.
And if you're looking at my earrings, that today I wore my camel bone earrings. These are bones of camels. And I don't know for sure what stone this is, but there's a little face on it. So I'm going to wear different earrings every week. I have alien earrings and unicorn earrings. It's going to be fun. But today I wore my weird earrings because I love them. And we're going to talk about the wonders of weird mysteries. This is a presentation for older kids, but younger kids are welcome too. Just if it gets a little bit scary, you can just mute me. That's the thing to do. So I'm going to share my presentation. Here we go. Is it working?
It works.
Oh, there it is. It's working. So we're going to go from the beginning of the slideshow. Yes, from the beginning. And your whole screen should be filled with my books. These are some of my books. I've written about 50 books. I live all the way over in Spokane, Washington. I came from Spokane to talk to you today. I was supposed to be in Warrensburg to do this, but COVID-19 got in our way. Oh, well, it will pass and we will be fine. It's just a matter of being patient. And then this silly virus will be gone. Until then, we've got virtual visits. So I live in Spokane, Washington, and I'm talking to you from Spokane, Washington this morning. It's morning for me. It's not morning for you, is it? These are my two normal daughters, except they're a little bit weird, huh? Just like their mom. That's Carrie. She's the one closest to the dinosaur. The other one is Vanessa. She's the one closest to her cell phone. And those are my Mother's Day presents because I'm weird. And my girls know I'm weird, so they give me weird stuff. This is my normal living room. Except it's not very normal, is it? It's pretty weird. Because I'm pretty weird. That's what I love. I'm weird. I'm proud of being weird. This is my weird dog. Her name is Abby. She is a Great Dane. She is 12 years old, which is very old for a Great Dane. She's being calm in this picture with all her toys behind her. She's spoiled. But there she is being weird too. She gets crazy playing upside down football. That's my Abby, the Great Dane. Here are my two rescue kitties, Fluff and Atticus. And then suddenly I got two more because my neighbor moved away and she abandoned two kittens. So I don't have two rescue kitties now. I have four. We have Fluff, Atticus, and Pinky. Pinky came in out of the winter cold to live with us, and her sister Susu did too. I now have 4 rescue cats, which is probably too many. But if they need a home, they need a home. So that's the way I do it. I let them come and live with me. I didn't grow up in Spokane. I grew up in a place called Houston, Texas. And if you've ever been to Houston, Texas, it's hot. That's the thing I remember the most about it. It's very hot and sticky. I also remember the critters I could catch. I'll show you some. Now, this is me growing up in Houston, Texas. Can you see my cursor? I don't know if you can. But do you see the girl, the taller of the, see how there's 2 girls right here? That's my mother's 2 daughters. The taller girl with the blonde hair, that's my sister Kim. And the little girl, that's me. And this was Easter Sunday. And my big sister Kim, she loved being dressed up. She loved being fancy. Look how happy she looks. She looks so happy. Do I look happy? No, because I wasn't. I hated wearing fancy dresses. I hated wearing scratchy petticoats and tight patent leather shoes. And who puts white gloves on a 3-year-old? That's insane. Over here is me on my 4th birthday. Every birthday, my mom made me wear a dress. And every birthday, she gave me another brand new doll. Do I look excited about that doll? No, because I didn't like dolls. I threw them all in the bottom of my closet, except this one. I cut this one's hair off. And then I loved her, because then she was weird. So that's the only doll I ever kept, and I still have her. I didn't like dolls. I like being outside catching critters. This is my 2nd copy of this book, Reptiles and Amphibians. It was my favorite book of all time. You can see my cursive writing, Kelly Milner, there. That was the 2nd copy. I got the 1st copy when I was in kindergarten. My mother circled the poisonous snakes, said, "Don't touch those, go play." So I went and caught critters. Here I am with my very best friend. That boy behind me is Craig Bottoms. Yes, his last name was Bottoms. And in that picture, we're catching a toad, a big frog. But my favorite thing to catch were these little green lizards that turn brown, green to brown, brown to green. They're called American anoles. I loved them. They're only about this big. See, on the guy's hand, they are the neatest little lizards. They eat insects, and they're super cute. And I would catch them and let them go. I love them. They're my favorite memory from Texas. I loved them so much that for 13 years, I had my own lizard in my living room. But my living room lizard was not little like an American anole. My living room lizard was almost 4 feet long. He was a rock iguana. He was gray like rocks, not green like leaves. And my lizard was named Gigantor. Isn't he a handsome lizard? Oh, he's so handsome. He's like having your own pet dinosaur. He died last year, but I got to keep him for 13 years. He lived to be 26 years old. That's a pretty old lizard to live in your living room, but I loved him. Look how handsome he is. He's got that beautiful red and black eye. He's got that beautiful little piece of banana on his face. He's very handsome. But does this picture prove he's 4 feet long? Or could that be a close-up picture of a little lizard? We don't really know from this picture, do we? So you should say, "Kelly, I want more evidence. I don't believe you just because you tell me something's true." Why should you say that? Because you are critical thinkers. That means you don't believe everything you hear. You want proof. Is everything you see on TV true? No. Is everything you see on the internet true? No. So you need evidence before you believe someone. I just told you that lizard was 4 feet long. You need evidence before you should believe me. So I'm going to give you evidence. Here is another picture of Gigantor. Does that prove he's big? No. That proves if you put a camera in a lizard cage, he might lick it with a big sloppy tongue. And I thought it proved he had no teeth until I found out I was wrong. I'll show you how I found out. Does that prove he's big? It's getting closer. That proves he's kind of muscular, like he's kind of a beefy lizard. But is there anything in the picture with him that helps you know how big he is? They call that scale. I mean, if there was a ruler in there with him or a football, wouldn't that help you to know how big he was? And there's nothing in there to scale him, just a towel. So do you need more evidence? Yes, you do. Would it help if I showed you a picture of me holding my lizard? That would scale him, right? Well, here's that picture. There's me holding my lizard 6 years before he died. He got to be 6 years bigger. He really was almost 4 feet long. He lived to be 26. He loved fruits and vegetables. Green beans were his favorite vegetables. Bananas were his favorite fruit. He went bananas for bananas. And that's how I found out he had teeth. One day I was feeding him a little piece of banana. I wasn't paying attention. He jumped to get the banana, missed, and he hit my finger. And it felt like I had been cut with glass. And I said, "Who put glass in my lizard cage?" And then I realized, wait, that wasn't glass. I think my lizard bit me. Now, he didn't do it on purpose, so I wasn't mad at him. Actually, I was pretty excited because for all those years, I thought he had no teeth. And then it turned out he did, and I was pretty excited because I had a little teeny cut with a little teeny bit of blood to prove he had teeth. But no one was home. I couldn't say, hey, look, the lizard bit me. So I did what any crazy writer would do. I got out my cell phone and I took a picture. Now, there was just a little teeny tiny bit of blood. But is that the picture I wanted? Oh no, I wanted lots of blood. So I squeezed and I squeezed and I squeezed until I got lots of blood. And then I took the picture. You want to see it? Here it comes. There's the picture with lots of blood. Look at all that blood. Can you see my cursor? See that little thing on the top where the blood starts? Teeny, tiny, teeny, tiny. That's the cut. Right there. Teeny, tiny cut. Then I washed my hands and I disinfected it. I put a Band-Aid on. You know the little Band-Aids that nobody uses? It was big enough. And then when my daughters came home, I got out my cell phone and I said, look, the lizard bit me. And my daughter said, oh my gosh, Mom, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And I showed them the Band-Aid and they hit me, punch. Don't scare us like that, Mom. And then I did what I should have done many years ago. I did research on my lizard's teeth. Turns out he did have teeth. They even looked like glass. I didn't see them because they were retractable. They went in and out as he needed them, you know, just like Toothless on How to Train Your Dragon. Remember they called him Toothless because they thought he had no teeth? Till they found out he did. In and out as he needs them. My lizard was like Toothless, retractable teeth. Who knew? The world is full of weird discoveries. You need to go out and find some. So it won't surprise you to know I've written 6 dinosaur books. Because to me, dinosaurs are big lizards. And I love dinosaurs. I loved them when I was little. I still love them. My next dinosaur book will be a little different. It'll be about the women of paleontology. You don't have to be a man to be a dinosaur scientist. We need men to be dinosaur scientists, but we also need women to join the fun. This was one of the first lady paleontologists. Her name was Mary Awning. She was not allowed to be an official scientist. Women couldn't study. But she did study on her own, and she became a very good paleontologist. She collected fossils. Here's another lady. Her name is Winifred Goldring. I don't know if that's how she says her name. I just think she should. Winifred Goldring. Look at those funny clothes. Aren't you glad you don't have to wear those clothes to school? I am. But she was the first female state paleontologist. Here's another one. Her name is Lisa White. She's the head of paleontological studies at UC Berkeley in California. That's a very big school with a very important dinosaur program, and she's the boss of the whole thing. Did you notice she's not white? You do not have to be white to be a paleontologist. Anyone can be a paleontologist, no matter what sex you are, no matter what color you are, no matter what age you are, no matter what gender you are. Anyone can follow their dream. If you want it, go for it. And of course, there's Karen Chin, the queen of paleo poop. Her name is Dr. Karen Chin at UC Boulder, Colorado, and she studies dinosaur poo. Those are all dinosaur poops. Coprolites. Yeah, who knew? And then there's Paleo Barbie. Yeah, there's 3 kinds of paleontologist Barbie. I have all 3. Of course I do, because I'm weird. This is a book I already wrote. It is called Albino Animals. I was inspired to write this book when I went to the Denver Zoo. Now, Denver, Colorado is very diverse. That means there are people of every color and type. I love it. It's like a rainbow on earth. It's my favorite place to be. And at the Denver Zoo, there was a group of African-American kids walking towards me. It looked like they had one white friend, but when they got closer, I realized their friend wasn't white. She was like an African-American girl with albinism. She had no color in her skin, no color in her hair, no color in her eyes. And she was amazing. And I knew what she had was called albinism, but I didn't know what that meant. So when I went home, I had to look it up. What is albinism? Are you noticing a pattern here that I'm always curious? Yeah, I was that kid in your class that makes your teacher insane, asking too many questions. Now I get paid for asking questions. So I went home and I looked up albinism. Turns out our bodies make something called pigment, melanin. If you have a lot of pigment, you got that beautiful brown skin. If you have less pigment, your skin is lighter. If you look like me, you have some pigment. I sunburn in the summer once or twice and then I get tan. I have some pigment. Guess what? If you have lots of pigment, you have more protection from the sun. It is a pretty great deal. I get sunburned once or twice. I'm more like this person. And then I tan up. If you have less pigment than me, you look like my sister. Do you remember she had blonde hair and blue eyes? When I was a kid, they did not make sunscreen, so every time she went to the beach, she came back as red as a lobster. I thought it was hilarious. She did not think it was very funny. Less pigment, less protection from the sun. If your body doesn't make pigment at all, no color in your skin, hair, or eyes, you have albinism. This is a white girl with albinism, but it gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. No color in her skin, see? No color in her hair. Look at her eyebrows and her eyelashes, no color. It looks like her eyes are red, doesn't it? But they're not. Her irises, the part of our eyes that are blue or brown or green, hers are clear, transparent. So what you're seeing is a reflection of the blood vessels that line the back of all of our eyes. Now, one third grader once told me she was creepy. I said, no, she's not creepy. She's different. Creepy is that guy that follows you around the toy store. He's a little bit creepy. She's not creepy. She's different. And different is wonderful. Different makes this place magical. All of our difference is what makes us special. So I wrote a book on animals with albinism. Here's a little bat named Casper. Isn't Casper adorable with his normal friend? This is a big humpback whale named Migaloo. They thought he would die because with no pigment, he has no protection from the sun. They thought he'd get skin cancer and die, but he didn't. He's been back to Australia for the past 15 years. And this last year, he came back with a baby calf who was also an albino humpback whale. Now, if you wonder how big humpback whales are, check out these people above them. Those are paddle boarders. See all those people above Migaloo? Migaloo is very, very big. Now, these are squirrels. There's a normal squirrel, just brown, and there's an albino squirrel. Now, this tells you why it's hard to be an albino animal in the wild. What color is the normal squirrel? Brown. What color is the tree? Brown. So when a squirrel gets chased by a dog, he runs up the tree and he holds very still and he blends in a little bit. He has camouflage. But that little white squirrel, he doesn't know he's white. He thinks he's brown like all his friends. So when a dog chases him, he runs up the tree and he holds very still and says, hey, thanks, I see you way better now. But he's lucky when it snows, right? I bet he's happy when it snows. And this guy here, this reptilian looking guy, he's not a reptile. He's an amphibian. He's a salamander called axolotl. He's normally a beautiful chocolate brown, but this axolotl has albinism, so he has no color in his skin or his eyes. What he did have was his own website, thanks to the University of Indiana. I'm thinking, why does a salamander get its own website? I had to look it up. I mean, it's not Taylor Swift. It's not Beyonce. Turns out this is an amazing salamander. If you cut off his leg, it will grow back. Well, big deal. So does a starfish. So I'm going to do more research. I want to know more. Turns out if you crush a vertebrae in his backbone, his body will fix it all by itself. No doctors, no help. His body just repairs it. If you cut a little piece of his brain out, his body will fix that too. If you cut off his head, he dies. So don't cut it off. It's a bad idea. Don't do it. But he fixes his own body. Now, he doesn't live any longer than any other creature might, but he lives a much healthier life. And that's why he had his own website from the University of Indiana, because the scientists all over the world are studying axolotl. If they can figure out how he repairs his own body, they're hoping we can teach our bodies how to do it too. Would that be worth knowing? Is that weird? Now you believe me when I tell you I'm weird. I get paid for being weird, and I love being weird. Wave your weird flag. I wish there was a weird badge for my lanyard. Maybe that's what I'll design for my lanyard design. Here are some more albino animals I have not written about yet. This little Chihuahua dog has his own Instagram page. He's famous. This is an albino raven. Isn't he wonderful looking, the bird? This is a little albino elephant. Isn't she cute? And here is an albino orangutan. She lives in Indonesia, and they love her so much they're building her her own special island where only orangutans are allowed to live. No people can visit because they don't want anyone to hurt her. I think that's a very good idea. Now, I wrote these books about cryptozoology. Have you ever heard of cryptozoology? It is the study of animals that may or may not be real. Let's say you're in the forest and you see something strange, and you call the newspaper and say, I saw a strange animal in the woods. And I promise I wasn't imagining things. It was really there. That animal would be an animal of cryptozoology, the mysterious animals that may or may not be real. Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra, Jersey Devil, Mothman. Those are all cryptids, animals of cryptozoology. I wrote Tales of the Cryptids in 2006, and later I wrote In Search of Sasquatch, all about people who believe in Bigfoot. Now, I found out my favorite real cryptid was the coelacanth. That was a prehistoric fish. It lived in the age of the dinosaur, and there's a coelacanth fossil. The impression of the fish left in stone millions and millions of years ago. They thought it wasn't alive until they caught one in the 1930s. Marjorie Courtney Latimer, she was a curator of a museum in South America. And she went to the fish markets looking for fish to mount for the museum, and she found a coelacanth in one of the fishermen's piles. She said, holy cow, I thought these were extinct. So she took it back to the museum and she called all the experts. She says, I think I have a coelacanth here. And she sent them a picture, and she was right. The fish that had gone extinct had not gone extinct. It was still swimming off the coast of the Indian Ocean. And then they found more in the 1960s, and now, yep, there are colonies of coelacanths living deep in the Indian Ocean and deep in South Africa's Sodwana Bay. This is a South African living coelacanth. They call it a living fossil. Look at that diver's expression on his face. He's going, holy cow, that's a big fish. Because it is big. It can be up to 6 feet long. They didn't see it all those years. And it was 6 feet long. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Here is my favorite fake cryptid, never ever real. It was called the Fiji mermaid. There was a guy named P.T. Barnum. He had a show that he put on. You might remember P.T. Barnum. I'll show you why you might. He said, come and see my beautiful mermaid. You know P.T. Barnum from this movie, The Greatest Showman. Remember Phineas P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum was The Greatest Showman. He had those Fiji mermaids, and he said they are beautiful mermaids. But when you got to his show to see the beautiful mermaids, you did not see what you saw in this advertisement. you saw this. Half a monkey sewn to half a fish and mummified. It was a hoax. It was never, ever real. It was fake from the very beginning. But you can still buy them. Fake Fiji mermaids. Go to eBay. Type in Fiji mermaid and you will find these. You can buy them today. This one cost me $8. This one cost me a little more because she came with her own little box. I'll show you when we unwrap. Can you see the picture? Look at the little baby Fiji mermaid. You know what I call the one on your screen? I call her Barbie's evil twin. She looks a little like Barbie's evil twin, doesn't she? Now here's my favorite maybe cryptid, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. I thought he was fake. Now I think he might be real. I didn't say he is real because we don't have enough evidence. But there is some evidence that he might be real, and we're going to talk about that now. This picture right here is part of the evidence. It was from a movie taken way back in 1967. That's so long ago, I was 10 years old. In 1967, 2 rodeo cowboys went to California. They went to try and get pictures of Bigfoot's habitat, the place where they thought Bigfoot lived. And they had a little 16mm camera. It was before video cameras. So it was a film camera, and they got 1 minute and 6 seconds of Bigfoot walking away. They call it the Patterson-Gimlin film. 1 minute and 6 seconds long. Now the cowboys said, yep, that's a Bigfoot. That's a Sasquatch. Really and truly, we saw a Bigfoot. We got it on film. Other people say, no, it's not. That's a guy wearing a costume. And either thing might be true. But before you go for the costume idea, remember, this was 1967. In 1967, costumes weren't great. They were terrible. The best costume maids did not look like this. They didn't look like Caesar in the reboot of Planet of the Apes. That's now. And that's special effects. That looks totally real, doesn't it? That wasn't possible in 1967. The best costumes in 1967 were from an old TV show called Star Trek. And I don't mean Captain Picard. I mean Captain Kirk. This is one of the best costumes made in 1967. That's Captain Kirk doing battle with Mugato. Mugato was that ape-like creature. Now, that's the best costume made. Does that look real? No. Do you see any eyeballs in that mask? No, because there are none. Are there any muscles in that costume? No, because there are none. That's what costumes looked like in 1967. If that other movie was a costume, it was a very good costume. Or it was an animal. If it was an animal, it was a great ape. Just like these guys. Orangutan, bonobo, gorilla, chimpanzee. These are the great apes. But all of these great apes walk on 1, 2, 3, 4 legs. They call them quadruped. Quad means 4. They walk on 4 legs, you know, like Donkey Kong. Anybody play Smash Bros? If you play Smash Bros, you probably played as Donkey Kong once in a while. He fights standing on 2 legs, but when he runs away, he runs on all 4s, right? Because he's a quadruped, 4 legs. If Bigfoot is real, it's a biped. Bi means 2. It walks on 2 feet. This scientist right here, his name is Grover Krantz, Dr. Grover Krantz. He was an anthropology professor at Washington State University. He believed Bigfoot was real because he collected their footprints. That's more evidence. Have you ever been walking barefooted in the mud and you leave your footprint behind? Yeah, it feels great. That squishy mud between your toes, I love how that feels. You could save your footprint. You would mix up something called plaster of Paris. It's white powder. You mix it with water. It gets thick like pancake batter. Then you pour it into the footprint and you wait for the liquid to dry. It takes a long time, but once it's dry, you very carefully lean down and pull it out of the mud. and then you have a mirror image of your footprint. That's what these are. They are plaster cast copies of a Bigfoot's footprints from Washington State, where I live. Now, the one Grover Krantz is holding is a pretty normal foot, just big, right? That's the one on the right side of your screen. What about the other foot? Is that normal or is that twisted? And does it have broken toes? Do you see all those broken toes on there and the twist in the foot? They sent that footprint to a doctor, an orthopedic surgeon in Salt Lake City, Utah. He said, whatever person left this footprint behind, I could probably help him. He has a spinal cord injury. He has a disability. If you're going to make fake footprints, and they do that, are you going to make a fake footprint with a disability? Or does that make it interesting evidence? It makes it interesting evidence. It's still not proof. We won't have proof till we find a Bigfoot body. So people say, let's go kill a Bigfoot. Bad idea. Because if you kill one, you got to kill a dad or a mom or a kid or an aunt or an uncle or a cousin or a best friend. You know how gorillas live in groups and they care about each other? I don't want to kill somebody's best friend, do you? And I sure don't want to kill somebody's baby. Because a Bigfoot hunter came up to me and he said, look, I've got baby Bigfoot's footprint. And I said, dude, that's so adorable. So he made a little copy for me so I could share it with you. And it is the most adorable, tiny little footprint. But are you critical thinkers? It might be a baby Bigfoot. What else could it be? Could it be a baby human? That might be a baby human. I will have to put that in the maybe pile of evidence. Not the for sure. Now here is a hoax, and another reason why you don't want to shoot a Bigfoot. What happens if you shoot a Bigfoot and it turns out to be a guy wearing a costume? Uh-oh. Isn't that called murder? Yeah, you're going to go to jail. The police aren't going to say, oh, no problem. Well, go home because you didn't mean to kill him. It's okay. No, if you shoot somebody in a costume, you're going to jail. So don't shoot one. This costume is often mistaken for a Bigfoot, and it was used in one of the biggest, most famous Bigfoot hoaxes, fakes of the 21st century. Two guys in Georgia, a police officer and a prison guard, they told the world, we found a dead Bigfoot on the side of the road and we put him in a freezer. And the pictures went out to the newspapers. Look at that poor, sad, dead Bigfoot. And you know what? A guy bought it for $25,000. And when he defrosted the ice in the freezer, it wasn't a dead Bigfoot. It was this costume, frozen in water with roadkill intestines on it. Disgusting. It wasn't real. You have to be careful when you study cryptozoology. Now I have a brand new cryptozoology book for bigger kids, 230 pages of cryptids, 50 different cryptids, and cryptid creatures of field guide. There are 3 pictures for each cryptid, an adult, a baby, and a skeletal feature in all 50 cryptids. This is one of my favorite weird ones. He's called Tsuchinoko. He's from Japan. It's a big fat snake with a little skinny tail. And I did research on Tsuchinoko. Turns out he's a video game star. Yep. He's in an old video game called Metal Gear. That's a Tsuchinoko. And he's in a new game too called, let me think, what's the name of that game I play all the time? Pokemon. Dunsparce is a Tsuchinoko. So if you like Pokemon, you like Tsuchinoko. I wrote a book about unidentified flying objects and aliens. This was my alien book. I decided to research Area 51, Roswell, New Mexico. Here's the story. In 1947, a flying saucer flew over Roswell, New Mexico, was struck by lightning, and crashed into a cattle ranch. Are those cows in that drawing? Those are sheep. That illustrator did not do his homework. The story is they crashed into a cattle ranch. The man who ran the cattle ranch was mad because there was a big mess on the ranch. And he didn't want to have to clean it up. So he called the police. He said, Sheriff, there's a big crash at my land. I want to know who did it. Sheriff said, bring in a few of the pieces and we'll talk about it. So the guy, his name was Mac Brazelton. He went into Roswell, New Mexico with a couple of pieces of debris. And the sheriff said, that stuff is weird. It must be top secret. Let's call the Army Air Force. At the time, there wasn't the Army and the Air Force. The Army and the Air Force were one service joined together. So they called the Army Air Force up at Area 51. Yeah, it was real. It was also called Groom Lake. And they sent this guy, Major Jesse Marcel. They sent Jesse because he knew every airplane ever made. And they thought this was a plane crash. So he was the perfect guy to investigate. And when he saw the stuff in the sheriff's office, he said, where did you get this? Show me. So they drove back out to where the stuff was. Jesse Marcel said, wow. And he called a flatbed truck to come to their location from Area 51. They took all the big pieces of the crash debris, whatever it was, and they put it on the flatbed truck. The little pieces went into cardboard boxes, and most of the boxes went on the flatbed truck, went to Area 51, then to an Air Force base, Army Air Force base in Texas, and now it's supposedly stored at Wright-Patterson Airfield in Dayton, Ohio. But Jesse took a couple of the cardboard boxes in his own car, and before he turned those boxes in at Area 51, he stopped at home, where his 12-year-old son, Jesse Jr., was sleeping. He wanted to show his kid this weird stuff. So he woke him up. He says, wake up, Jesse. Jesse says, Dad, are you insane? I have school tomorrow. He says, no, get up. I brought some weird stuff for you to look at. So Jesse gets out of bed and he goes down into the kitchen. Dad dumps it all out on the kitchen floor, says, pretend it's a jigsaw puzzle. See if you can fit any of the pieces together. And he can't fit them together, but he notices that there's this long beam of metal and it's super light. And back in 1947, almost all metal was heavy, like car engine heavy, but not this beam of metal. It was light. And etched into the metal were symbols. Jesse called them hieroglyphics because he was studying Egypt in school. And he noticed if he held that beam of metal up to the light and turned it back and forth in the light, that those symbols turned purple. Wow. Dad says, okay, I got to put this stuff away. I need to get it turned in at the base. And Jesse helped him put them all back in the boxes. And then his dad said, hey, Jesse, you be good for your mom. I'll see you in a few days. And Jesse said, yes, sir. Because when you're a military kid, you say, yes, sir. And Jesse went back to the base and turned in those two boxes. And then he told the newspapers, yes, we found a flying saucer. They didn't make up flying saucer stories. They did it based on what Jesse Marcel told them. And then the Army Air Force said, no, Jesse, go back and tell him you were wrong. Tell him you made a mistake. Tell him it wasn't a flying saucer. Tell him it was a weather balloon. Do you think a guy who knows every airplane ever made would have made that mistake? Would have mistaken a weather balloon for a flying saucer? I don't. But he did tell it. He did say, no, I made a mistake. It was a weather balloon. His career was destroyed. No one ever trusted him again. Fast forward. This is Jesse Jr. He died in 2013. Before he died, I talked to him. He told me about the stuff in his kitchen. He told me about the jigsaw puzzle and the light beam of metal and the symbols and the turning purple. He told me what he saw in his kitchen was not a weather balloon. He said it was not of this world. Now, should we trust him? Maybe. He followed his father into the military. He was a lieutenant colonel when he died, and he was also a medical doctor. He did 2 tours over Iraq, flew the helicopters that saved the wounded soldiers, and then he sewed them up when he got them on the ground. Is that a man of science? Yes. Is that a credible witness? Yes. Does that prove there are UFOs? No. That proves we have one good witness. We need lots more evidence before we can be sure. But the book gives you lots of evidence. Check it out at your library. Now, I wrote a book about ghosts. If you're scared of ghosts, plug your ears for a minute. I was not going to write a book about ghosts because you can't prove ghosts are real. And you can't prove ghosts are not real. You can only collect stories. But I decided to do it after this guy came on the Travel Channel. Zach Baggins is his name. He's on ghost adventures. He exaggerates a lot. He goes into an old building. He says, "My name is Zach Baggins. I'm going to lock myself in this old mental hospital. I'm going to be in here 24 hours. Anything could happen. I might die." And then a stick falls off the wall. And he says, "A stick just fell off the wall. That's proof that a demon is trying to kill me." But is it? Or is it proof he's in an old building? I think he exaggerates to make the TV show better. But I don't want to know exaggerations when I go to bed at night and get scared. I want to know evidence. So I wrote a book called Ghostly Evidence. For 4 years, I went ghost hunting with lots and lots of paranormal experts. I wanted to see what happened with my own eyes. And I saw lots of interesting things. I went to this haunted house in San Diego, California, the William Heath Davis house. Supposedly 30 ghosts live here. I showed up at 9:30 at night, stayed till 2:30 in the morning. And all kind of ghostly things were going on. Now, we were sitting in the dark on the floor with all the ghosty playthings. Lady paranormal with the flashlight. Lady paranormal next to the flashlight lady. My friend Danielle holding the 2 bars of metal. Lady paranormal lady next to Danielle. Me next to blonde lady. You can see my arm. And our photographer was also a girl. We were all ladies that night. It wasn't on purpose. We didn't say no boys allowed. It was just a weird coincidence. And so we're looking through the house, and all night long they're doing things, and I'm thinking, this is just nonsense. I didn't think anything about it was real. They were collecting what they called EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon. And they'd say, "Oh, the ghost just said he's going to try to scare you." And I said, "I didn't hear those words. How did you hear those words?" And all night I'm thinking, I don't understand. I don't hear any of the words that they say they hear. It sounds like gibberish to me. But then we went to George's office. And remember, we were all girls. And they went to George's office, and we sat in the dark on that rug on the floor. Do you see the rug on the bottom? And they said, "George, is there anything you need?" George died in the house in the 1940s. Nobody murdered him. He just died of being an old guy. They said, "George, is there anything you need?" And they played back the little tape recorder, and I'm expecting more gibberish. And I hear a deep male voice say, "Send them home." Yes. And I said, "Oh, I heard that. Oh, baby." And I thought, is that a ghost voice? And then I started critical thinking, and I said, maybe it's a ghost voice, or maybe a police car went by the building and his police radio interfered with the tape recorder. That's possible. Or maybe a radio station, maybe that disc jockey, maybe the radio waves interfered with the tape recorder. That's possible. So I'm not sure if it was a ghost or not. But then we went down to the kitchen where they said the little kid ghosts were, and we read a picture book called Elmo's Circus. And the paranormal lady asked the ghost, "Did you see the pretty pictures?" And she recorded her question on the tape recorder again for electronic voice phenomenon. And when she played it back, a little teeny voice said, "I've seen them." Now that was not a police officer. And that was not a radio station. Was that a ghost? Maybe. Let's say it was a ghost. Was it trying to push me down the stairs? No. Was it trying to throw a television set at me? No. It was just a little kid answering a little question. My theory is ghosts aren't really mean. They're just people with no bodies. My mother is dead, and my grandmother is dead. If they're hanging around to say hello, is that so bad? That would be pretty nice if you ask me. Now, here's some more evidence. This lady's name is Vivian Van Velde. She's standing beside me with my curly long hair. She writes ghost stories. Being Dead, that's one of her scary books. She said, Kelly, if you're writing about ghosts, I want you to see my pictures of ghosts. I said, Vivian, you believe in ghosts? She said, no. But tell me how someone faked this picture, because I want to know what happened. So Vivian sent me 2 pictures of a volunteer at a literature festival. The girl's name is Angie, and she's tired in this first picture. Vivian always took 2 pictures in case you blink. Click, one more, click. This is the first picture of Angie. See if you see anything different in the second picture of Angie. Ready? See anything different? Do you see a boy's face behind her? I do. I said, Vivian, I know what happened. I know what happened. I think there's a glass wall behind Angie. I think the boy is standing across the room, and that's the boy's reflection. And she said, that would be a great solution, except there was no glass. And I said, okay, let me think, because I am a critical thinker. I want to solve this problem. And I thought, and I said, I know what happened. That kid photobombed you. He ran through the picture and accidentally left his face behind. No one noticed that he walked by. She said, that's also possible. But all the kids had gone home for the day. So is it a ghost? Maybe. Does he look scary? No. He looks like your cousin in Kansas. He looks like a nice guy. Who says ghosts are bad? Fiction says ghosts are bad because we like to get scared. But I think when you go to bed at night thinking they're just other people is a lot easier to go to sleep with, don't you think? Now, I wrote a book called Death Eaters about scavengers. It's one of my newest books. I called it Death Eaters because I was watching Harry Potter one night, and I thought, wouldn't that be a good name for a scavenger book? And so I wrote it. And I love those scavengers. They're the ultimate cleanup crew, the recyclers of the planet. These are famous Death Eaters. That's a fly and her babies called maggots. Disgusting. That's a crow. They clean up lots of dead mess. And you know that vultures clean up dead things. But did you know that squirrels were Death Eaters? That squirrel is eating that dead frog. It's disgusting. Let's erase that thought. I'm going to replace the picture of a squirrel eating a frog with a picture of a squirrel eating pizza. Because pizza's yummier. Don't you like that better? Yeah. Pizza's a lot more fun to think about. Did you know roly-polies were Death Eaters? Pill bugs. They don't eat live things, so you can still play with them. They would never hurt you. But they might eat a teeny tiny bite of a dead thing. Just a tiny bite. I wrote science project books. There are 3 of them. Simple Science, Goo Makers, and my favorite, Gross Science projects. In Gross, you get recipes for fake blood. Yeah. Fake snot. Totally fun. Fake vomit. It's all in there. And many, many other gross science projects. In Goo, you get to learn how to make lots of kinds of slime, like magnetic slime or glitter slime or glow-in-the-dark slime. You can do it with the Goo projects. This August, next month, 2 books on World War II. This book is about kids that were the heroes of World War II. Not grown-ups, kids. And there were lots of them that did amazing things. The other one, the yellow one, is Voices of Ordinary Heroes. There were adults that did amazing things. Both books are pretty fun. But I really like the young one, the one about kids who did amazing things. And after that, yep, a book on the Titanic. Does anybody like the Titanic? The Titanic was the biggest ocean liner ever made. It was called an unsinkable ship in 1912 until it sank. It hit an iceberg and it went down in the North Atlantic Ocean. And a lot of people didn't make it, but some people did. 705 people survived. I'm going to write about tardigrades, the toughest animals on planet Earth. They're called tardigrades, water barrels, moss piglets. They live in every wet, mossy place. So if you have a creek in your town, yep, there's tardigrades nearby. They can survive 400-degree temperatures minus 300-degree temperatures. If you take away their water, they can live up to 100 years without water. Wow. They are the toughest animal on the planet, and they are so small, you need a microscope to see them. The biggest tardigrade is the size of those little black seeds on that bagel. Poppy seeds. But they are super tough. So they said, well, if they're so tough, let's send them to space, where there's no water, no air, extreme heat, extreme cold, ultraviolet rays. So they sent them up to space. And when the capsule came back down to Earth, they thought all the tardigrades would be dead, and half of them were. But half of them were still alive. They even had tardigrade babies in space. Hi, we're fine. We're cute little tardigrades. We're adorable, aren't we? They come in 7 colors. Tardigrades are amazing. I'm going to write about this guy. He lives in, is it Kearney? Is that how you say it in Missouri? Kearney, Missouri. His name is Gary Staub. He's a natural history artist. The book will be called The Art of Natural History. Have you ever gone to a museum and seen a model of a dinosaur that looks real? Gary Staub is the guy who makes those creatures. He's the guy in these pictures. Here he is with a dinosaur kind of working on his teeth. Here he is with Supersaurus. It's an old ancient crocodile from prehistory. And here he is with a mammoth. Do you see Gary down here at the feet? But that's not all he's done. They flew him out to Egypt to make an exact copy of King Tutankhamun, King Tut. And there he is in his workshop in Missouri, working on the copy of King Tut. That's not all. Did you ever hear of Pompeii? Remember when Mount Vesuvius, the volcano, it erupted so suddenly that it covered all the village in ash and captured the bodies under the ash? They flew Gary to Pompeii so he could take measurements and pictures and come back to his lab and make exact copies of the bodies of Pompeii. Did you know that was a job you could do? He also made Ötzi the Iceman, the only wet mummy preserved. They found him in a glacier in the Italian Alps, and they put him in a freezer. Gary got to go to the freezer and study and take pictures and even touch the old mummy called Ötzi. And then he made exact copies for museums. Those are all the things that are coming and some of the things that have come before. But I want you to remember one more thing before you go. And that one thing is that someday you could take my place. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to be a writer. You just have to be curious. So if you're curious and you want to live a weird and wonderful life, think about being a writer. And give yourselves a big hand because you were so patient all this time. Now, we have time, I believe, for some questions, don't we? I think we do. So I have to stop sharing. There, I did it. Your librarian, Miss Evans, she's taught me so many things. I'm so happy. That was our presentation. Are there any questions? Sarah, did you collect any questions?